Yes, good evening everyone. Welcome to Footy Classified and another Easter Monday classic. It was indeed. Looking forward to unpacking everything from the MCG today and everything that happened in the previous days before that. But first, let's welcome our panel, one of the finest journalists in the country, the multi-award-winning Damien Barrett. Damo, great to have you.
Good evening, Sam.
The man with all the medals, the legend from Geelong, Jimmy Bartell. Welcome to you, Jim.
Evening, Sam.
And a big team change at Footy Classified tonight. Lloyd out. In a two-time All-Australian, the former star Tiger and pup Nathan Brown. Brownie, great to have you.
Good to be here. Good day of footy too, wasn't it?
It certainly was. It was a game that promised everything and, if anything, over-delivered. Let's hear from both coaches and their reactions after the game.
I'm not sure we've done that before. That felt a bit new for me. We've lost a couple of games from being a couple of goals up with a minute to go, but I'm not sure we've won one like that. So that's a bit of a feather in the cap. Both teams had a lot of opportunities to play much better. You look at the Clang account in the last quarter, both teams, they had shots where they kicked it out on the full, and we found unique ways to not score. Not everyone has to nail everything to win big games.
I didn't think we played well all game, so I'd have to look at it a little bit closer, but it's sort of, I'm never happy to lose. But I thought they probably had their chances to win it late, and we almost stole it. From early in the game, we just weren't executing the way that we can.
Jimmy, Brownie, as always with these clubs, it was compelling viewing. There's a concession in those words that mistakes are going to be made. Is it just a matter in those hot moments that you're going to make less mistakes and make winners when it counts?
It felt like that, and I agree with Sam Mitchell. It felt like both sides almost were going out of their way not to score. The ball was zinging around. There was lots of fumbles. Guys had opportunities, Brownie, from both sides to probably get that little margin, even a buffer, a two-kick margin, but they just couldn't capitalise. And it was a reflection of the pressure of the game, the heat all day. It was a pretty hot day there at the MCG.
Still a massive difference between a game like this and two lower club sides going out in a 1 to 2 point loss. I think this game was full of pressure, and just at the end, players didn't make the right decisions. But this was finals type atmosphere, and we see a couple of mistakes here. Shannon Neal could have marked this, could have gone back and kicked his fifth and kicked the winner. Mark Blixars would have liked his time over again. This is a couple of minutes that you probably don't want to see again. This is a lot of mistakes coming here. Push it forward. Jack Ginnivan, he had a great game, but just loses his legs here, and Blixars had his opportunity as well and kicked it out of bounds on the full for the second time in a row.
Good players across both sides, across the ground. You could find sort of heroes everywhere, whether it was Tom Stewart in the back line. Midfields went really well. But for me, it seems to be a recurring issue since the grand final for the Cats, which is the small forwards and the high half forwards. And really good sides have 3 and 4 of them. And the Hawks certainly have this. I know Ginnivan played a lot more wing than he has in the past. But you go through their numbers. McDonald, 26 touches. Ginnivan, 19 and 2. Moore, 18. And the Wizard, 13 and 3. But they all are high score involvements players and goal assists. And so this is a bit of structure and a bit of personnel for the Cats, which is hurting them in big games. I know I go back to the grand final, but you think it was Zach Bailey the first quarter. He could have nearly kicked 6 in the first quarter. It was Will Ashcroft who won the Norm Smith medal, pressing up as a high half forward. And again, in big games, you go back to Gold Coast, the opening round, high half forwards, Petrarca coming up, of course Bailey there, the Gold Coast Suns. But today, it was the Hawks, smalls and mids, and what they're doing really well, the forward handball. And the Cats love to keep their structure back, and this is why they're able to get space in the dying moments of the game. Look at the amount of space Dylan Moore's able to get. It gives them time, it gives them composure. The Cats love to stay back. They need pressure on the ball. They want you to quick kick it, and sides aren't doing that as much.
Does Tyson Stengel's looming return now rectify some of those problems for the Cats?
I think he helps structurally, but he helps on the other side of the footy, and it helps probably when the Cats are trying to move the ball forward. I think this is coming from sides who identify, and you saw it really early with the Hawks. They coughed up a few early, but it's don't quick kick it, because you might as well just go hand the ball back to Tom Stewart or Guthrie. You've got to handball the ball forward, and you can actually get a player out, which then you can pick the Cats' defence apart.
So we know the Cats play assertive, so they like to stay in front of their opponent or trail in. They like to have space, and they trust their players to come back and third man in, fourth man in. Think of Tom Stewart. But I thought today, against a really smart opponent in Hawthorn, they gave Jack Gunston far too much space. So he is the smartest forward in the competition. His leading patterns are better than anybody's, and I thought they outsmarted outsmarted themselves, the Cats. They thought they could get ahead of Jack Gunston, but time and time again, he had too much space. And when he went off, it was Lewis who found the space. So they would have loved to have tightened up just that little bit. But I thought the space they afforded these guys, and have a look at this one. This is late. So you've got O'Sullivan there coming up, and he's in that play there. All of a sudden, he goes up, he loses. He's actually on Mitch Lewis at the moment. So he's just wandering off. Mitch Lewis doubles back. That is 35 metres. He's trusting somebody else to do his job, and that's the winner.
So you live by the sword, die by the sword, essentially, Brandy. But you're a little bit worried about that watching that.
Against the good side, so against the Brisbanes, against the Sydneys, when you've got really smart forwards like a Jack Gunston, I think Geelong do it so well. They do it better than anybody, particularly down at Geelong, and they get Tom Stewart back and they get Jack Henry back. But I thought too much space today allowed Jack Gunston. He had 7 shots at goal and was the winner at the end as well. It
was almost the perfect game. It was such a fascinating contest. The postscript equally as intriguing, and this raised eyebrows, well, certainly at least mine, listening to Chris Scott after the game on Fox.
We've played Gold Coast up there who were hot, we were a bit off, and then 3 sides in a row that you'd think are close enough to locks for the top, whatever we're calling it.
Whatever we call the top 10, does that allude to the fact that you're not a big wildcard guy?
I tend to think they just made it up. Just threw in a couple more finals for no good reason except cash, probably.
That is, now, we're all having a little bit of a chuckle, Brandy, listening to that, and I get why. But that, when you break it down, if that gets written as a quote in a newspaper from a premiership coach, one of the most highly regarded figures in the game right now, that's an extraordinary thing to say, Dave.
Is it wrong, though?
No, I think he's probably said whatever.
I think most people think that.
I totally agree with you. But it would be rare, Damo, that someone of that stature openly says things like that. Is there something I'm missing here?
Well, he's never been afraid to express opinion. He did say he was still in game mode when he gave that answer. That was the context to it. But look, it's not the first time there's been friction between the AFL and Chris Scott. It probably goes back, well, does go back to the COVID period when he, as much as any coach in the system, was aggrieved by the slashing of the soft cap, down $3.5 million or thereabouts per club. And he and others alongside him felt that the coaching fraternity never fully recovered as other arms of the business of the AFL did after COVID. So that's the backdrop to it. And it was only last year there were communication issues that were very public in the end between Chris Scott and even Geelong and AFL people. He addressed that publicly himself. He actually apologised for one particular part of it, but he did concede there were communication issues that were not resolved and had led to the form of standoff that has been at play now for some time.
Just on his statement, and I think a lot of people share those concerns. I certainly do, Sam. And my worry is, while you're creating the wild card, we're looking for every game to have meaning, or we're searching for meaning, or actually,
games of consequences, the phrase the AFL uses, Jim.
Yeah, which is the right phrase, Damo. But we could actually, inadvertently create more games without consequence. Because it feels like we are shifting into a bit that games are just becoming content and no real meaning to it. And you hear coaches, and we've interviewed Scott Pendlebury, I've heard Ken Hinkley talk about it, I heard Chris Scott post-match talk about it. Best 23, have them now. We don't really need to. It only matters when we have a long run if now we've got a final 10. And that's a bit of my concern, that trying to make games, 20 rounds 23, 22 and 21 mean something. Are we just moving that back further into the season where we've got games where sides are going, look, if we drop it, we want to play every game to win, but is it that big of a deal?
There's clearly discontent between Chris Scott and AFL House. How high up does it go? I mean, I'd be shocked if someone from the AFL, after listening to that, doesn't reach out to Geelong.
But I don't think anyone from the AFL is going to be surprised at hearing Chris Scott say that. I would imagine they would know that, Sam.
And it's refreshing, as Brownie said. It's refreshing. I'm sure a lot of people would agree.
What would they say to him, though? He's a big man. He's the coach of a footy club. He's allowed his opinion.
No, totally. But when you've got the guy who essentially created it, Andrew Dillon, coming out, was it late last year they announced it? And he said, this is for the fans. We're doing this because fans love finals, and so therefore, here is our gift to you. And one of the greatest coaches
of the modern era... Is it a gift for the fans or the gift for the broadcasters, though?
Well, no. I'm saying Andrew Dillon says it was for the fans. Chris Scott is just calling his bluff and saying, no, it's not. You did it for cash. I think that's quite extraordinary listening to that.
Yeah, and the premise of 10 teams in an 18-team competition being rewarded, if you want to use that word, to make finals, and they have got status as finals. They're wildcard games, but they've got status as finals. That's the outcome.
OK, let's move on to the Blues. Unfortunately, Good Friday turned very, very bad in the last quarter, and it's just these fade-outs, Brownie, that continue to happen. It was interesting listening to the following day Chris Davies, their relatively new head of football, talking about where some of the problems in the playing group lie.
Clearly, there's a mindset aspect to it. Yeah, we would like our players communicating better than maybe they have. When pressure comes on, one of the first things that goes when your team is not going very well is communication. And if you think about the good teams that are playing at the moment, the teams right up the top end, they've got outstanding players and not just the 2 or 3 leaders that you might be moving towards, but a group of players who are communicating well. And right now, 4 games into the season, we haven't got that right to the extent that we want to.
Who's he talking about there, Brent?
Well, it had to be the leadership group, but you'd start at the top with Paddy Cripps, to a lesser extent Jacob Wiedering, but you talk about the captain, he's the leader, he's the one that sets the tone.
Jimmy, you played with and alongside one of the greatest captains the game has seen in Joel Selwood. What separates... We know that Patrick's been a great player for a long time. Are you able to take us inside what makes a great player, but separate to that, what makes a great captain?
Yeah, and look, I can't speak about Patrick Cripps because I'm not in the locker room there at Icon Park. But as you said, Joel Selwood, and I think Joel Selwood, the reason why he's a great leader and why he stands up in big moments and then demands from his teammates to step up in big moments is actually all the work that goes on behind the scenes. So Joel Selwood could tell you every family member of a young player to an old player. He builds the trust. He could understand what makes you tick, whether you're a person who needs the stick or the cuddle. And it's a lot of work that goes into after hours, not on game day. So what he does is he builds trust in the playing group. So then when that 3/4 time moment comes or at half time and he eyeballs guys and he demands something and he can be pretty forthright, he's already got the trust of the group, so he can actually be pretty forceful. And so when he's yelling and screaming, players go, I believe him, I trust in him. And then he just leads from the front and he doesn't stop talking on the field. He's just demanding with standards.
Was he scary?
No, not scary, but he was forthright and knew what he wanted. And that's part of leadership. It's almost like they say that the cult of coaching. The same goes with a captain. Like, you've got to actually believe the captain. When you're running out down the race going, we might be playing interstate. It's hostile. No, we're good. We're going to grind them out to the last 2 minutes of a game. So you've got to get everybody in the palm of your hand and just believe whatever you're saying.
He also walked into a pretty good footy club that had leaders who taught him as well. Maybe Paddy Cripps didn't have the leaders to teach him what he's doing now.
Point.
Yeah, and that's a fair assessment. Like Cameron Ling before him, Tom Harley as well, the 2 previous premiership captains, and you create that environment and then you keep fostering it.
There's an awareness, I think, of what you guys are talking about in the opponent from the most recent game on Good Friday, North Melbourne. I refer to Alistair Clarkson and this incident that has been covered now where he came and approached his young player, Clarko-McKercher, and physically demonstrated with him and the learnings out of all of it.
Just for a few contests here in the 3rd quarter, he fell below the standard that we wanted, and he's making him aware of that because not only did he make some errors in that, it also cost us goals and nearly had the game slipping away from us. So, we just got to maintain those high standards, and he's also a lad that actually wants the feedback and he wants to give it to him direct and straight to the point and not sugarcoat anything.
I was disappointed I let the team down. It was a forward 50 stoppage. I kind of switched off mentally for a bit, and I think Jagger Smith might have stuck through and kick a goal, who was my matchup at that time. And Clark and I have such a good relationship, so we hugged it out after the game. So I think it's just his way of showing care. He's just so hard on me because he cares so much.
Well, if Clarko-McKercher's got no problem with it, I'm not sure why we've got any problem with it. And it goes back to, as I touched on with Joel Selwood, it's the trust has been built. And at different moments, you need the stick, as we're talking about, is where you figuratively and physically poking his ego. And it's like, come on, mate, switch on. We're past the 10-20 game barrier. We actually need you. We need you as a match winner. Last quarter, switch on, and I'm not sure why this has been a bit, blown up into a big issue.
You have been critical of Alistair in the past, but you liked his ruck move late on the weekend.
Well, Alistair Clarkson's a great innovator. He's one of the great coaches of all time. And with systems these days, you don't often get the chance to, as a coach, impact the game. So Pitnet, he was dominating, and this game was getting away. This is early last quarter. Have a look at the domination of Coleman Jones. So this was just a procession. Then he put Trembath in, who'd only had 4 minutes of each quarter, but he played 16 minutes in the last quarter. Coleman Jones went off, and Trembath was the number 5 rated player on the ground. Have a look at some of this stuff that he's doing. And he followed up, he kicked goals in this last quarter. So you don't often get to impact the game as a coach anymore. Most of that's set up before a game and at training. But in this game, three-quarter time, Alistair Clarkson made the move, and I'd go as far as saying they don't win this game if Trembath didn't play in the ruck for those last 16 minutes, because he was ravenous at the football, kicked the goal and got over the top and didn't allow Pitnet to do what he was doing.
They're going to have the same problem without Cherry in the next game, and this is their toughest test for this season, Sam, when they come up against the Brisbane Lions as part of Gather Round. And then the matches that follow, obviously the Geelong team is going to be presenting as a real problem there for them. Do you believe it's real though, Brownie, this time? We've seen dawns of North Melbourne to a point over the last 5-6 years at various stages. Is this one more real in your eyes than the others?
I think the way they're playing is more real, but who have they played so far? They've played clubs that you probably expect them to beat. When you look at their first 6 games, it was a big launching pad for North Melbourne, and they've done the right thing. They lost to the West Coast Eagles, but I'm just going to hold fire and wait for them to play the good sides.
Are you jumping back on again?
I need to see more, but the 3-1 scoreline look, it could have been 4-0, but the signs look better to me, for what it's worth.
The signs certainly look better at the Melbourne Footy Club, Damo, and it was, 12 months ago, we would have sat at this panel and talked about how Simon Goodwin, going into his last year, they were forcing this whole terminology of love. That's right. Everything is we want to get back to love. And
connection. That was the other word they used.
And there was no connection.
Yeah. And there was a great culture, which there wasn't.
All of that, I think it's fair to say now, felt a bit forced.
Yep.
But now it's that very thing, and it looks authentic.
We want to be a team that can challenge in every phase of the game and be dangerous with and without the ball, and be fun to watch. And I want our players to have fun and enjoy the game when they're playing as well.
Really, just to get back to enjoying footy too. That's something that I told Kingy that I wanted to do. I hadn't really enjoyed footy my last 2 years, and he just said that he wants to help me, get back to my best playing and really just find the love of the game again.
The way our game plan's changed, there's a real sense of freedom with moving the ball. And as a forward, the way that we're moving it helps old guys like me still look somewhat young. But we've trained it all summer and it's been super exciting.
Winning helps, obviously, but it's real and it's organic, and you can feel it coming out in 3 wins now out of the 4 matches. And Brownie, the fact that there is no Christian Petrarca and no Clayton Oliver and no Stephen May, they love those people and they will always love them as Melbourne people, but it's freed up the entire club. It's not just what you see on game day, it's off-field as well. People talk about that, and they don't want to make that sound negative to those great Melbourne players, but we're seeing it, aren't we? There's a no-fuss element to this club.
We are, and you could call them the no-fluff demons at the moment. So last year, so many times they chipped the ball sideways, they chipped it backwards, and they were a high disposal side. They're a low disposal side right now with little fluff. So have a look at these clips here where they move the ball on really quickly. At every chance they get at the moment, the Demons are playing on. Look at the running capacity that's going on at the moment. They've got choices where they kick it to. There's just so much running. As soon as they get the football, they're moving it on. Out of the back end, no sideways chips. Low disposal count. High inside 50s. Last year, they ranked 13th for disposals per goal. This year, right now, they're ranked 3rd, and that's because of the way they're moving the footy. This is a perfect one. Harrison Petty, obviously doesn't move the ball that quickly that often. Look at this one, just gets it straight on. Have a look at the players. Have a look at Chandler's run here. He knows that the ball is going to continue to roll on, and this guy's been terrific on the wing, sharp. He's added to that run along with Pickett, and there's no fuss demons at the moment.
And their experienced players are playing great footy. We know how well Max Gawn's going. Mihocek's fitted in really well. Jake Melksham, and then you throw in Jack Steele from the Saints. But they've nailed their draft picks as well. They've had a couple of good groupings as well. You look at the players, they add different things on the ground and I guess highlight what you're speaking to there, Brownie. A lot of those players have speed, running capacity, can play in multiple positions in and outside the square.
Who's the best name on that list, Jimmy, for the future? I'm putting you on the spot here.
Jeez, I like what Langford does, but I'm a little bit biased for big mids who can mark the footy overhead, but there's plenty of running power and guys who can play in and outside the square.
You mentioned Steele, 9 seasons as a Saint, a lot of those years as captain, a 2 times All-Australian, 2 times best and fairest winner at the Saints. Not wanted when they went down the recruiting path. And I know footy clubs have to make decisions as they went down a real hard path, but ultimately we're going to be comparing Jack Steele against Sam Flanders, who is on more money than Jack Steele was on at St Kilda and required the number 7 draft pick. And look, the numbers stack up okay, but I'd argue Steele's having more impact for Melbourne in a winning team than Flanders to this stage, and I say that knowing there's 19 matches remaining of this season. But he's a heart and soul player, and he was out of love both in the way the Saints viewed him and the way he ultimately viewed the Saints.
Yep. it's been a bad loss for the Saints, but equally we have to give credit to the Ds because we've criticised the Melbourne Footy Club for having to pay Oliver to play somewhere else, to pay Petrarca to play somewhere else. I mean, they're getting this guy who's been paid the majority of his contract.
It raised eyebrows when they got him. Why they'd get him,
when
but now...
When they got Steele?
Yeah, when they got Steele, but obviously 4 weeks in. It's worked. It's a long season, but tell you what, it's worked so far.
I know so much of the commentary will be about ball in hand with the Ds and what they were able to do to the Suns, but did Stephen King provide the rest of the comp a little bit of a blueprint about potentially how to stop how to stop Damien Hardwick's side?
Yeah, well, I think the blueprint is there. When you've got a side who relies heavily on forward handball and handball meter games, you've got to win it at the contest and put them under a lot of pressure. And I know we keep speaking of Jack Steele, but he led the charge, but Sparrow as well around the contest. You've got to meet them at the coalface and force the ball backwards, and that actually generates turnovers really quickly because we know under Damien Hardwick, when we've seen it the Tigers and when the Suns are flying, that they can get forward side rapidly. It's not cheating, but that's the way they play. They get the ball, take it forward by hand, and they get those waves running from behind the footy.
Matty Rao wasn't ready to play.
He didn't look. His
didn't
hand
look
looked
right.
sore.
He didn't want to put his hand there. I'm not saying that he was not going in hard enough. I just don't think he was ready to play. And maybe if Petrarca was still playing in that team, they might have given him another couple of weeks off.
Jimmy, Jed Walter, a big name in the game by way of aspirations and hope, but it's not working out for him. And I know he's a young player, and I know that some people might be saying why you're focusing on someone so young. But what is happening with this guy at the moment?
Yeah, look, a lot of the footy's getting directed towards Ben King, and quite rightly. He's so efficient. Nearly every kick is at goal for Ben King, and he's just trying to find his space. Is he the second ruck? Is he the centre half forward? He's almost playing a third tall forward because once you throw Ethan Reid down there as well, and it'll take a little bit of time for him to work out what his space is in this Gold Coast Suns side, but there's certainly a lot of potential. He's hulking, he's big. We know aerobically he's very good. He's trying to work out, well, am I getting the ball in the lead? Am I stay at home? But then Ben King's in behind him. So he's just trying to work out what fits best for him and the Gold Coast Suns.
Out of contract at the end of the year. I mean, the thing about him is that clubs are going to come for him. He hasn't been getting a game. He's been guaranteed a game.
Well, you work in this space. What do you think he's worth? As a dollar value attached to that.
Key forwards who can run are really hard to come across, Brownie. You know that. So someone will offer him big cash. There's no doubt. But to your point, it's fair to say the jury's still out, right?
I feel it's out.
Highly talented.
Highly talented, and a long way to go. He's so young.
Okay, hot start here on Footy Classified, and there is plenty more coming up after the break. Do not go anywhere. We're going to talk about Essendon. The Bombers finally showing the Dogs count their cost of their win. Adelaide's Docker Shocker, and don't forget, tomorrow night, this is going to be big. Live from South Australia, it's the Gather Round Spectacular. Eddie, Hurdy, Rory and Cal, they'll all be there as we kickstart Gather Round from the stunning Fleurieu Peninsula with SA footy legend Tony Modra, Crows and Powers star Josh Rachele, Mitch Georgiades, Max Gawn, Jeremy Cameron. Guinea's going to be there. Jack Ginnivan will pop in, showcasing SA in style. Dermot Burton's epic road trip from Melbourne to Adelaide. Old baggers Anthony Koutafidis and Brendan Favola, plus Sneaky Sound System performing their big hits. This is going to be massive. That's 9:30 tomorrow night, straight after maths. Footy Classified. Brad Scott says the hard work has been done with the list. Is he right, Jimmy?
Some of it's been done. I don't think they're a finished product. I get where he's going, but I still think they've got some big decisions to make of either who they bring in through trade and free agency and who they select regarding the draft as well, and then how they put the development around that. That's all part of having the list done and completed, because they've still got some players who are injury prone, and if they're mapping out that they're going to be challenging for finals, call it in 40 to 50 games, well, a number of these guys still be there, especially in the key position posts as far as rucks and centre half forward and centre half back. So yeah, they've done a fair bit of work, but I still think they've got a lot more to do.
It's good to see their response, wasn't it? But the question I'd ask is, why not in the first quarter? So 7 goals, it was 10 goals to 1 or something, 55 points. They were really good in the second half, and it was led. We'll listen to Brad Scott in a minute about Zach Merritt, but why not in the first quarter? It's a winnable game if they start well against the Bulldogs, because the Bulldogs are really under pressure in that second half. So why not in the first quarter? Why in the third quarter? What happened after half time? That's the thing where Essendon need to get to.
Let's take a listen to their coach, Brad Scott, after the game.
There are some things to be pleased about. I think the most pleasing thing is it would have been easy for our players to get a bit sort of dejected and flat. And the response after half-time, after we changed some things, I thought led by Zach Merritt with his pressure around the ball, really the third quarter started to look like, we wanted it to look like from the start of the game.
Yeah, Zach Merritt certainly did lead the charge. I think up until half-time, he barely had a clearance or a tackle, but he got inside, started to play a bit more inside, and I think a lot of his teammates joined in as well. And this was the great thing. It was everybody, and I love this proactive, like get out of the zone in the area. One thing I've been a bit critical of Essendon is they do the first contest and then they stay in that bubble. They're actually able to spread the ground. I think Archer May showed earlier he was winning his match-up really well. So lots of positives. I do agree in the second half, but a bit with you, Brownie. You'd love them to see them start the game this way. We weren't expecting them to beat the Bulldogs, but at least take it up to them.
It looked like a 120-point loss at one stage, so that is one positive, but they need to start better.
Bulldogs on the back of that game, only unbeaten team in the competition this year, but they've got a game against Hawthorn in Gather Round in Adelaide on Saturday night. Without Tim English, the ruckman who suffered a medial ligament complaint in that game. It could be 3 weeks, it could be 4, it could be more, but that's in that zone. Ed Richards, a late withdrawal for the game, a tendon issue behind the knee, and there's going to be multiple matches missed there, as there will be with Artie Jones, who kicked 3 goals and had a career-best game against the Bombers, but a hamstring damage there.
First loss of the season coming up for the Dogs with those injuries, do we think, against the Hawks? Or they remain unbeaten at Gather Round?
The Hawks look pretty red hot at the moment. Tim English is a huge out. Yep. So, obviously Hawthorn have the 2 ruck combination, which I think is working fantastically off the bench at the moment. So it's going to be a tough game for the Dogs.
Yeah, English, you throw in Richards, and then the way the Hawks can move the ball quickly to challenge the Dogs' defence, you'd have to say the Hawks would start favourite in that one.
Let's move on to the Magpies. Given a little bit of a touch-up by the 2-time reigning premiers, the Brisbane Lions, on Easter Thursday. Some comments from one of their star players, obviously, in Braden Maynard. Raised your eyebrows, Damo.
Oh, it's just so Braden Maynard, isn't it, in the News Limited publications here to make this comment about mates of his. We obviously got rid of the 5-time leading goal kicker in Checkers, that being Mihocek, and no one wanted him gone. I don't know what happened there, but anyway. And look, it's so Braden Maynard, but I reckon every Collingwood player would still like to have Checkers back in that particular mix. He is a loss, and it obviously coincides with Nick Dacos going down again, Brownie, and that coincided with Scotty Pendlebury being out and Darcy Moore.
The use of the term 5-time leading goal kickers were very pointed. If it was just Mihocek, we moved him on, but the 5-time I felt like was very pointed.
Do you think he was directly talking about the fact that they're now struggling to score?
Absolutely he was. What else could he be saying? He's almost done it twice in the one sentence.
When they're all out, as they have been last match, Pendlebury, Moore, Dacos, they do look really exposed, Jimmy.
Yeah, and this happens to some sides who go all in on the senior players, and of course you keep bringing in talent. But what you've got to do as a senior experienced side is still just give taste to younger players. So when you do have moments like they did on the weekend, they're not coming in for their 4th and 5th games. Of course, Nick Dacos, he's just another conversation. But you look through their young players and you wonder whether throughout the last couple of years, could they just give them a more extended look while you've got senior players around them? And that actually sets them up really well. So if you can surround these players with Pendlebury and Moore when they're playing it, and you get them to 20 to 30 games. I know there's selection integrity and you're challenging in the season, but if you can give them little blocks of football, you're actually sort of building some experience on the run with these young players.
So you've got other names even outside those national draft haul lists. I mean, Rowan Steele, obviously, and Parker as another. Is it possible, though, Jimmy, they're just not good enough? And I know you don't want to put lines through young players so early, but is that what they're discovering?
Well, I think because they've been challenging so much in the last few years, they've gone with their best, call it, squad of 25 to 27. They probably feel those players sit outside that. But yeah, I know everyone's chasing Brisbane, and both these sides have got depth issues for different reasons. We're highlighting Collingwood's got a bit of a depth issue with, call it experience coming up, but we keep talking about all the names missing for Brisbane and the selection headaches that's going to cause, of course, with Andrews, Gardner, McCluggage. I'm going to forget a few because they've got stars everywhere that are sitting in. Payne as well. And then you've got Annabelle and Marshall, the young academy picks. They've got depth issues, but in the positive.
The Crows have their own sort of issues, and unfortunately when it comes up against the top sides, they simply cannot get it done. And Matthew Nicks, their coach, he was frustrated post-game.
Yeah. It's almost deja vu, wasn't it? 3 weeks now. It's hard to be in a contest from 5 metres away, right? So we've, for whatever reason, our focus isn't where it needs to be in those key moments. And credit to our opposition, led by Brayshaw and Sarong and others. They're too good for you to give that sort of space. And they were sharp. They were very sharp early, and we weren't.
He mentioned 5 metres away and the space that he gave. I'm a huge Josh Rachele fan. I think he should be playing in the midfield, but this is the tape they'll be showing Josh Rachele and Isaac Rankin. He always starts behind, and when you start behind against a good player, you just got no hope. And all of a sudden, 1 metre becomes 2, becomes 3 for Josh Rachele. Again, he's against good players here, starting behind Andrew Brayshaw. There's only one player that's going to win that ball, and most of the time at a stoppage, the ball falls within a metre radius, and Josh Rachele just wasn't ready for it. Again, this is Caleb Sarong, brilliant on-ball player. There's only one player getting that football. So Josh Rachele, this last one, he's on a very good young player himself there. He just allows him to go. He's ball watching. He's 5 metres away from the contest, 10. Now he's 15 metres away from the contest. So I think they don't trust him and Isaac Rankin to play on the ball at the same time at the moment. For Adelaide to get somewhere in the finals, they need to figure out how to trust those two players to play on the ball, because I think they can change the way they play, change the way they move. But he's got to have a look at his starting positions on the midfield.
Great vision, Brownie.
Great vision. And I think Freo are going to challenge highly and actually finish in the top 2. I've got them finishing really high on the ladder. Top 2. You look at 13 games in the West, and then they've been able to beat the Crows in Adelaide, and it's going to come off the back of, I guess, development from within. And of course, Chapman off the half-back line. We know Murphy Reid is a star, one of your favourites, Damo. But I spoke to Joel Corey a couple of years ago, and I value his opinion on young footballers as high as anyone else. One of the great developers of footballers. He was there at the Dogs when there was a young Bont, and he said to me, watch out for Erasmus and Johnson. He loves their toughness, he loves their ability to play multiple positions. They're big, they're physical. This is Chapman, long arms, reads the ball well off half-back, takes the opposition's best and attacks off the back of it. So they're getting great growth from underneath the Freo Dockers.
High praise indeed. Don't go anywhere on Footy Classified. The Watercooler is up next after the break, and Gather Round is on the agenda, plus the Eagles crash back to earth, and there's no Lordo. So no Sledgehammer. So Jimmy's going to the Plasma to go back with the flight. It's all coming up on Footy Classified. Yes, it is time for the Watercooler. Each week we debate one of the big issues that's a talking point in the competition. And tonight we're going big on Gather Round and whether the AFL and the game itself is at risk, Brownie, of killing the golden goose. Now, the reason that we bring this up is, and we're about to get on a plane to Gather Round. Gather Round has been amazing for the competition and for the state of South Australia. But it is worth asking the question, I think, is it enough to just put it on? Or do you have to make sure that all the games are as high quality as they can be? Because a few of these fixtures, Brownie, but pretty grim reading.
Well, that's the plan, isn't it, to have as many good games, but we don't have as many good games every week. So Collingwood Fremantle, really good game. You've got Sydney Gold Coast, that's a good game, and Hawthorn the Western Bulldogs. I think the one they missed on was Adelaide. They're probably expecting Carlton to bounce back a little bit. If Carlton were 3-1, and they probably should be 3-1, that is a pretty good game. So Carlton, as they've let a lot of their fans down, they've probably let Gather Round down as well.
It's a little bit harsh on the Blues. Damo, where do you sit on this?
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, but I think the conversation around the lack of quality games, it's a wider conversation than just Gather Round, isn't it? I think the divide between the good teams and the not-so is apparent. Look, as Brownie's already highlighted, I would have loved to have seen that Sydney Swans Gold Coast game at the Adelaide Oval, and again, I can understand why back in October you may schedule it where they've got it, at Norwood. I would have liked to have seen that. And Brisbane Lions has always had a bugbear. The 3 years of Gather Round, they've actually made the grand final in each of those 3 seasons, weren't appearing at Adelaide Oval, and they're not appearing now as a 2-time reigning premier at Adelaide Oval again.
You've been really strong in this space for a number of years, really about asking the question of what does the AFL want to make itself to be? You know, is it about more content or quality content?
Yeah, well, I'm all about quality content, and I highlighted that a little bit earlier in the show. That's my concern, that, you know, games of consequence, as you're talking about, Damo. But every round, there's good games and bad games. It's just the fact that we give greater attention to all games of football. So we put those poor games up in spotlight. If you go back 10, 15 years, it'd be match of the round we'd all focus on, and then probably the second and third, and then we almost get just a score update. But now we focus every little detail on every game. And if you use last week for an example, well, even today was a belter, but Gold Coast and Melbourne became enthralling. I reckon if we went 3 weeks ago, we'd go, oh, maybe it could be, you know, an okay game. North Melbourne and Carlton was a fascinating game to watch, and I reckon if we went back 3 or 4 weeks ago, we go, that's not going to be a great game, but it was a beauty.
Sam, years 1 and 2 of Gather Round, anecdotally at least, then I think there was a fair degree of possibility around it. Peter Malinauskas, the Premier of the state of South Australia, was quite hands-on in how the fixture actually looked. Are you suggesting by raising this topic that he's now no longer overseeing where these matches and who's playing?
I don't know how much say he has. He should have a say, by the way.
He did strongly early
days. They're paying money, and that's fine. I haven't got a problem with that. It's just, like, we're all going to be lucky enough. Are you going? I didn't ask if you were going.
No.
The three of the four of us are lucky enough to be going over there to work.
And it's fantastic.
It is fantastic. But for a lot of the people that are not in South Australia this weekend, remember, it is just another game of footy, another round of footy. There'll be 9 games, and you just have to wonder whether they are feeling like they're getting left out, because there is a sense from inside AFL House that it's okay if not every game is the best game it can be at Gather Round, because the great thing about Gather Round is simply that we're just all there. It doesn't help the people that don't get to get on the plane, Brownie.
But you're not going to get every game being a great game. You can't go to 9 games a weekend and think these are all going to be belters, because we've got sides that are 18, 17.
You've got the reigning premiers playing North Melbourne. Like, you could have worked out.
But it could be a good game. North Melbourne are 3-1 at the moment. Do you give them the chance against Brisbane this week, the way they've been playing?
No.
You think Brisbane should win, but that could be a good game.
Okay, let's move on. And that was a very good edition of the Watercooler, all thanks to the great people at Hyundai doing big things in the biggest game. Let's move on to what was a big game for the Sydney Swans, Jimmy. Not so much for the West Coast Eagles. They crashed back down to earth.
Yeah, look, I think we're going to expect this throughout the season. The Eagles are coming from a long way back, and look, we hope the 100-point losses are starting to go in the revision mirror, but they got touched up by a very experienced, a very fresh Sydney Swan side, and this is not an excuse, but it is a reason with the game. And they had the 10 youngest players on the ground before we even got to the first Sydney Swans player.
That's an amazing stat, the 10 youngest.
Yeah, and it's very young too, like 18 to 21, with nearly half the side out there, and they're going to grow together. And you just want Minnie McQualter to be able to keep bringing them along, not cop too many bumps and bruises. But the thing I did like is pre-game he highlighted Willem Dersma and he said, look, we don't want to play him in at centre bounce or around the contest too much. But he didn't anchor his position. He knows third quarter, there's Heaney in the centre bounce, there's Warner, go play on him, and he won a couple of contests, so massive tick for him.
What about Sydney's skill level? So the kick-to-handball ratio has gone up this year. So they're handballing the ball more. It's been a clear change of game plan for Sydney, and it is working for them. Them and Brisbane, in my opinion, are head and shoulders above everybody else in skill level and the way they move the ball at the moment, either by hand or foot. Brisbane normally do it by foot off half back and through the middle. Sydney are doing it by hand and foot through the middle at the moment. So I think they stand above everybody else at the moment. Sydney and Brisbane. Then you've got a small gap to Gold Coast and the Dogs, and Hawthorn a little bit sometimes. They've got okay foot users and Freo, but I just think this Sydney team at the moment is slicker ball movement as you see. The chasm between the good sides who can use the football and the poor sides has never been bigger.
Okay, plenty more coming up on Footy Classified, including our own Jimmy, who's going to head over to the Plasma next. Remember, no Lordo, so Jimmy's going to go back with the flight. A reminder, there is no Tuesday edition of Footy Classified tomorrow, but Ed and the team will be back next week. And once again, recognising the Fiji Airways Player Performance of the Year. The winning player to receive 2 business class return flights. Nathan Brown does not get on a plane unless it's up the very front. On to Fiji and then on to North America, plus 5 nights accommodation in Fiji at a luxurious resort. Fiji Airways, proud partner of Footy Classified and Performance of the Year. No Matthew Lloyd tonight, which means no Sledgehammer. So Jimmy Bartell said, let me at the Plasma. I'm going to go back with the flight.
Thanks, Sam. I'm Braden Sire tonight. I am fill-in for Matthew Lloyd, and one of my pet hates in football was from today's game and waiting for the football. You've always got to come and meet the football. Free kicks are in your favour. Pushing the back, chopping the arms. You've got to come up at the football. You can still take it in your chest. You see here Shannon Neal, just a couple of steps, allow Scrimshaw in, and away go the Hawks. They scored off the back of those 2. Come meet the football. Love the way Josh Tracy goes about his forward craft. Most players that get worked under footy, just dig in, hold your ground really strong, and then come present at the footy. Again, you'd probably at worst get a free kick, but strong hands. We see the great goal from Tracy. Handballing's deplorable in the game, but if you fumble the footy, there is no chance for Freo kicking this match winner. Every Fremantle player was so clean, got the ball out, and we see the great result in Tracy. I think Charlie Cameron's back to his absolute best. He's seen the game really well. He's got full 360-degree view of the ground, kicks it to himself. How difficult kick that is, just almost like a soccer kick around the corner. corner, high ball drop. And this, as the ball's being bounced high in the air, we see the great Ashcroft goal, but it's Charlie Cameron's vision as he's receiving the ball. You look at that, sees Ashcroft out the side and just pops it out the side to Ashcroft. George Wardlaw, we're worried about his head. That is perfect. Don't put your head where your backside belongs. Bang, strong position there, and feeds the ball off. He can protect himself beautifully. And Jack Darling, look, he's been a bit of a whipping boy, but he stood up in the big moments. I love how brave he was in this passage of play. Game's on the line, could have rushed the point, but look at him, just keeps surging after it. Sheasel kicks the goal. 2-on-1, look again, another minute and 40 to go. 2 efforts, gets the ball out in the full. He's getting pinker and pinker as it goes on. But this jacket belongs to Mr. Gilmore. 15 seconds to go. Crunching tackle there, and that's what senior players do. They lift younger players. First, that's a Latrell Pickett, little kick up, but Jake Melksham, he says he feels like a young player, starts in the middle of the ground. This is staying involved. Tap on, gets put on his backside. Watch the rebound here, jumps up, and Caddyshack. That ball absolutely swings beautifully in. Max Gawn's the best ruck in the game. He takes the other opposition ruckman into deep waters, and right from the start of the game, first and second quarter, look at the work rate. He gets involved in the passage of play. Used to never use your ruckman on attacking plays, but Max gets in the right position. 1, 2, 3 efforts, leaves Big Witsy behind in the last quarter. Absolute superstar of the game, Max Gawn, and that's why he's one of the best ruckmen we've ever seen, Sam.
Ooh, is Sledgehammer in a bit of trouble there, Sam? Is it?
Oh, you're not suggesting.
That was a very good segment.
That was unbelievable.
And sound effects.
And sound effects.
And a movie reference. Yeah, actually, it's probably better. Yeah.
And it was rather apt that it was back with the flight tonight because in consecutive weeks we've had 2 players go down, going back with the flight with concussion moments. I'm referring to Noah Answorth of the Saints when he was knocked out the previous week, and also Willem Dersma, who contacted Jacob Wiedering. Now, Adam Uze, Richmond coach, had some interesting views on technique.
I reckon if you speak to most teams during intra-club games, there's kind of telling a guy not to go back with the flight because it's hard. The instinct to go and jump with your knee up is happened for 100 years. That's how you mark the ball. That's how you jump to the highest point. Otherwise, you'll be jumping off 2 feet and playing like basketball. So what you can take out of the game is guys going back with the flight and put themselves in that position. If we're trying to get players to get a feel for what's around and taking their eye off the footy, the game's going to be way too hard. We've got to let them play on instinct and never take that out of the game.
Brownie, I really like that comment from Adam Uze. I think it's a voice of reason in a debate that may have gone down a certain path because of the concussion conversation that the industry is having and needs to have and needs to continue to have. But I like how he's couched that.
Yeah, he has. He's done it really well. There's no way we can change that rule. They might like to adjust it somehow, but the way the rule is at the moment, we can't suspend somebody for trying to jump up and do what we've done for 100 years. There's an inherent risk when you play AFL football. There's got to be some sort of risk. We can't put a Band-Aid over everything in the game and make sure everything's okay because it is a contact sport after all. So I think the way it is at the moment, they will try and change it at some point, but I think it should stay.
There has to be, Jimmy, an acceptance at some level that accidents do happen.
Yeah,
360-degree sport with no padding.
Yeah, and it's a bit what Brownie is saying. You accept the terms and conditions, the rules of engagement, as they say, on the field, and that is the beauty of our sport. We are 360-degree. There's players coming every which way, and a lot of our fans watch it because there is a bit of risk, a bit like how people watch motorsport. And again, we're not minimising concussion and the discussion, and I think we've advanced and we'll keep advancing and we'll look after players. But I love the way Adam Uze put it. I don't know how we change it, but we've got to keep talking about it.
And that is one way to change it, to change the behaviour of the player going back.
Good call, bad call, coming up next on Footy Classified. Welcome back to Footy Classified. Time for good call, bad call, all thanks to Tab. Nathan Brown wanted the new ball, but Jimmy Bartell said absolutely not. I get it every single week, and this will happen again. So, Jimmy, the AFL needs... I'll start that again. The AFL needs Adelaide more than Adelaide needs the AFL. Good call, bad call.
This is a great call from you, Sam. Great start as well. Look, there's a lot of posturing going on. You're trying to negotiate a deal, but I think we all agree the best place for this type of gather round is in Adelaide. It's pretty central. People from all around Australia can come during the school holidays. Good call.
Sam, to you, the Blues would be better off copying Will Hayward's ban rather than fighting to take him to gather round. Good call, bad call?
Bad call from you, Damo. I think you've jumped a little too early there. He should get a week for this anyway, but I think you're referring to his poor form. He had 6 disposals on the weekend. He deserves another week, but he's on notice. So Not a terrible call, but bad call.
Damo, Christian Salem is coming for some of Bailey Smith's commercial contracts. Good call, bad call after the other night.
It's a good call, Brownie. This is a ploy for some Bailey Smith type of sponsorship from Cotton On. Christian Salem has deliberately left the drawstring on those shorts loose in the past 2 weeks. So you can see why now. So it's happened then, and it happened again against the Suns. So I would suggest, though, Brownie, that he actually uses the better collection of undergarment that we've got on the Sunday Footy Show.
The extra elastic.
Yes.
Now, Brownie, Brad Scott will make his feelings about Elijah Sardis very clear this weekend. Good call, bad call?
Bad call, because I think that he's going to get a block of football to prove that he can play. So the last couple of weeks, 32 and 34 in the VFL. There's a lot of players out there who get shipped out of the AFL system and you never really figure out whether they can play. We get players who go from centre-half forward, can't make it as a forward, they go back and become really good. I don't think we've found out whether Sars can play. And I think I'd say, if I'm Brad Scott, you've got 4 weeks, maybe even 6 weeks. I'm going to play you. I'm going to play you in the midfield, maybe play you off half-back. But I'm going to find out over the next 4 weeks, I'm going to play you. I'm going to play you 90% of the time. What have they got to lose? Yep. They could find a player, or at the end of the day, he goes back and plays VFL for the rest of the year.
Damo, one for you. Showing your love for the jumper has never been harder. Good call, bad call?
This too is a good call, because you're referring to Carlton Tholstrup trying to find some non-logo space on this Melbourne jumper, and all he could find was the Zurich Insurance logo as the sponsor. But no, it's a good call.
Sam, Matthew Nix read the tea leaves early on the new ruck rules. Good call, bad call?
Let's hear from Matthew Nix before I answer that.
He's come in and he's challenged Rob and said, look, I want this spot. I think the rule changes really is what's taken him past Rob.
And it's a good call. In fact, it's a great call from you, Jimmy, because, I mean, talk us through some of the vision here. He struggled.
Yeah, well, the extra height of McAndrew, and you have to keep your side of the line. It's really favoured the big jumpers. We're seeing the guys who've got big spring heel compared to the wrestlers are really thriving early in the footy season.
Jimmy, as long as it goes through the big sticks, it doesn't matter how it gets there.
Well,
good call, bad call.
Well, I think this is a good call from you, Brownie. Good goal-kicking call. It doesn't matter as long as they count as 6 points. And you take whatever technique you feel comfortable and you deliver the most accurate result. So good call from you, Brownie.
And Brownie, this one's back to you. It's time to lift the age of eligibility of Oz kickers for night games. Good call, bad call?
I think that's a good call, Damo, because there's a young man the other night in the background of this who he needs to be in bed because he is going to be a nightmare the next day. He's that tired, he's falling over. And for his parents, tomorrow is going to be a tough day.
That's the sort of goal you brought in for tonight. You went to Oz Kick Vision. Very good from you, Nathan. It's been a very good Footy Classified from you. Don't go anywhere. The show is not over. The closing cook still exists. You'll find out, Damo, after the break. Welcome back to Footy Classified. This would usually be the time where Matthew Lloyd would deliver the closing cook, but in his absence, there was only one person I trusted to deliver it. And my cook tonight, gentlemen, is for Carlton supporters. And I understand they're hurting. They're going through a really tumultuous period. I get it. But if you're going to be real, just stay negative. Don't try to be positive, because this is what happens.
We're disappointed in the Blues, but we believe in you. We're going to come back stronger next week. Bring it on.
Carlton, huh?
We officially a bottom 14.
The first half of that was like the first half of Carlton's games. Everything looks pretty positive. And then the second half's like, we are bottom 4. No good.
I feel like there's a lot of hate watching going on. It's almost a win-win for some of you.
What do you mean, some of you?
Yeah, I feel
all of you.
I'm Bomber Thompson.
All
of you.
That's a big call, Jimmy. You reckon he's actually death riding him?
Yeah, I think that you enjoy the win.
Careful.
There's a little bit of you enjoys the loss as well.
Oh, next time I do closing cook, you're going to be there.
He's coming back.
We got you once last year. Hey, gather round. We talked about the fact that there aren't a lot of great games. There's 3 awesome games, Brownie. Which one intrigues you the most?
Well, the Collingwood Fremantle game, I think, is going to be an absolute ripper. Nick Dacos comes back in, obviously, Sydney Gold Coast. But Hawthorn Western Bulldogs, for me, is probably the game of the round because the Bulldogs are under the pump. They have no ruckman. Obviously, Tim English is going to be out of that game. A couple of players out. So Hawthorn looks sharp today. North Melbourne, Brisbane and Essendon Melbourne. I'm pretty intrigued about that. I want to see where North Melbourne's really at against a high-quality side. Okay. They've played sides, I think, where we've got them grouped around on the ladder, but it'd be good to see them, 10
tested against Brisbane, and can Melbourne show that they are a class above Essendon? Can they keep that form rolling and not fluctuate through the season? And as you highlighted earlier, Brownie, we want to see Essendon start well in this game and take that second half into this game against Melbourne.
Okay, that's the Gather Round fixture. And don't forget, tomorrow night, live from South Australia, it is the Gather Round Spectacular. Eddie, Hurdy, Rory, Cal, they'll all be there as we kickstart Gather Round from the stunning Fleurieu Peninsula. Derm's already on the road to South Australia and rolling through Mount Gambier. Well, it's a stop over in Robe. He'll be live with Eddie and the team tomorrow night. A few stories will be told, I'm sure. That's 9:30 tomorrow night. It is straight after the finale of Mass. Thanks for joining us in Footy Classified. Brownie, well done to you.
Samuel.
We'll see you next week.